Now, the purpose of this session here is, through case studies, case examples, to better understand practices which sustain economic growth, job creation, and innovation, and how that can be enhanced, while at the same time keeping an eye on energy and food security, as well as having in mind such recurrent challenges as overfishing, habitat destruction, pollution, and climate change. All of these issues we heard about in the first session. In this regard, you should note that the fisheries and aquaculture sector is pretty important, not only for food security reasons, but it's one of the most traded food products in the world. And on top of that, fisheries and aquaculture plays a crucial economic role and sustains a lot of small-scale fishing communities, in particular in the developing world.
As this map indicates, global coverage of these areas has been expanding exponentially. We now have over 15,000 MPAs, giving us a global coverage of 6.35%, according to one source, including in both national waters and areas beyond national jurisdiction. Now, that's still less than half the percentage of protection of terrestrial areas, but with an increase at a rate of more than 8% per year, the news is very encouraging. Later this year, the world's largest conservation area of any kind will come into force, protecting 1.55 million square kilometers of the Ross Sea in Antarctica. This means that 9 of the 10 largest protected areas on Earth will be marine. MPAs are in many ways a near-perfect climate adaptation model. If well managed, they can be ecological and in some cases economic powerhouses. Not only have increases in fish biomass been seen, but substantial benefits can also accrue for both tourism operators inside the MPA and fishermen outside it. The Galapagos and the Great Barrier Reef are but 2 such examples. But of course, all is not perfect. A recent study has shown that 79% of a large sampling of MPAs are not meeting even half the thresholds for adequate management. For example, just 35% of MPAs were appropriately funded, only 13% were informed by scientific monitoring, and 9% reported adequate staffing. Staffing and funding gaps were the strongest predictors of conservation outcomes, quantified as increases in fish biomass in an MPA relative to that in unprotected areas nearby. But despite their shortcomings, 71% of MPAs still secured substantial positive outcomes. But the degree to which they succeeded was mainly a function of human and financial resources. There remains much to be learned. MPAs in and of themselves will not stop the threats associated with climate change. However, as another study has noted, existing and emerging evidence suggests that MPAs can serve as a powerful tool to help ameliorate some problems resulting from climate change, slow the development of others, and improve the outlook for continued ecosystem functioning and delivering of ecosystem services. This edge may matter more than ever as the stress that climate change places on marine ecosystems and biodiversity continues to mount. We don't learn what makes our lives possible. This needs to change. To that end, last year when I was here, I talked about Ocean School, which is a Dalhousie University, National Film Board of Canada, and Ocean Frontier Institute educational and engagement initiative aimed at youth from ages 11 to 15. Since then, I can tell you that the program is being scaled up substantially. We now have major funding from the Nova Scotia government, from our Federal Department of Fisheries and Oceans, and of course from my organization. The plan is to bring the program to schools across Canada. In addition, we're working with UNESCO's Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission and others to bring it to other countries, especially developing ones.
Et une chose que Madame il a très bien remarqué sur les marine protected areas in Spain, we work very hard to observe this commitment, and nous avons déjà pris presque 1 million d'hectares pour protéger dans les cas espagnols. Un élément fondamental, c'est l'aquaculture, et nous avons environ 300 000 tonnes de production de la conchiliculture et de l'aquaculture marine, et on espère pouvoir arriver jusqu'à 500 000 tonnes de production totale. Pour arriver à ça, nous devrons insister beaucoup. Je crois que tous les partenaires ils vont insister aussi dans la stratégie de l'innovation, de créer les centres d'excellence. Il y aura pas mal de cadres universitaires et même de formations universitaires que nous devrons créer as professeurs pour cette stratégie de Blue Growth.
We are an organization, a company that is inspired by algae towards a more sustainable industry. Specifically, one type of microscopic algae that are called diatoms. I don't know if any of you are familiar with diatoms, but a fun fact is that they produce 20% of all the oxygen we inhale.
And examples that we are dealing with are, for example, the garment industry. You all know the terrible situations in the garment industry. You also know the issues in the mining industry and in the food industry. We've been developing due diligence guidance on these, and I think it would be a very good idea to start doing the same thing for fishing, and that relates directly to greening the ocean. And I think as a last point, it's very important to stress that nowadays there are hundreds of studies out there that show that responsible business is also good business. Only today I already saw a study from Boston Consulting Group, that's the latest of the hundreds of studies out there, that actually companies that do better in terms of responsible business conduct, they also do better in terms of financial performance. They do better on the stock market. They attract better people. So this is not only good for the ocean, this is also good for business.